Joining me now, Heritage Foundation Center for National Security, former Pentagon official and former Navy captain, Brent Sadler. Brent, what's your reaction to that?
Good morning and Merry Christmas. Yeah,
Merry
it's
Christmas
a
to
very
you.
big challenge. Yes. Settling the war that Russia launched in February 2022, largely because of mismanagement by the Biden White House, it's going to require a couple of things. One, and I think this is often said, peace through strength. That's the only way that they're going to get President Putin in Moscow to honestly and sincerely enter into negotiation for peace that'll be lasting. But what is also important is that NATO's unity must be sustained throughout whatever is negotiated or the settlement, and that the NATO countries must continue their upward spending on defense because China is watching. And if there is division and if there is a relenting on spending on defense that's long overdue by European allies, then China sees a greener light for action in Asia.
Well, China is watching everything we do, right? Brent, you're out with this new op-ed in 1945 called China's Largest Naval Exercises in Decades. Why send 90 warships near Taiwan? Highlighting those exercises earlier this month, and I want to quote from this. You say, as President Trump prepares to take office in January, last week's activity is only a precursor of what's coming without forceful American leadership. Meanwhile, China warning the United States it is, quote, playing with fire by sending aid to Taiwan under the current administration. Brent, tell us more about this op-ed and your thoughts here.
Well, I've been watching Chinese activity for a long time, even when I was in uniform operating in the Indo-Pacific. And what is remarkable about what we saw, not only the size of the activities, 90 warships, to include significant number of Chinese Coast Guard vessels operating in what normally is a very low period of military activity in the winter months. The best explanation for why the Chinese did this now was because President Lai of Taiwan had finished a trip that went through Hawaii and Guam, U.S. territory of Guam and U.S. state of Hawaii, that probably got a little bit of the ire in Beijing. But there was no forewarning or even comment to that effect, which stands out in addition to the weird time of year to do this exercise. So lots of questions. The aircraft carriers stayed in port. All three fleets were active. And I think with the inauguration coming in January, this could just be a practice round for something that they will announce if the new administration comes in, and by all accounts, Trump intends to be exercising a peace through strength position, which will irk the Chinese.
Well, let's talk about the people Trump's surrounding himself with to combat this. He's announced his somewhat more Pentagon picks here, naming Stephen A. Feinberg as Deputy Secretary of Defense, Elbridge Colby as Undersecretary for Policy, Michael Duffy for Undersecretary of Acquisitions and Sustainment, and Emil Michael as Undersecretary for Research and Engineering. Brent, you're a former Pentagon official. What do you think of this team he's lining up?
Well, I like it, and I know many of those folks and worked with them in the past. So let's start with the top. Now Stephen Feinberg, led Cerebus. This is a group that, in my mind, which really stands out with some very unique and innovative approaches, helped the United States and our ally in the Philippines prevent a Chinese takeover of the strategically important port of Subic Bay back in 2018. So I think he brings some creative new thinking and also some innovative approaches to financing that might be helpful in rolling back Chinese incursions and encroachment around our bases throughout the Asia-Pacific. And of course, Bridge Colby has been very consistent that the #1 threat for the United States is China, and we have to take very meaningful steps to deter Chinese adventurism throughout the Indo-Pacific, first and foremost. But he also is smart enough to recall that we have to balance that to ensure there is no other power vacuum. And this means leaning on our NATO allies to step up and spend their fair share for defense.
So much to do, so many new names. Brent Sadler, thanks for talking with us today. We appreciate it. Merry Christmas.